with us Canoo. I just want to make sure, are we live? Just want to make...
Yes.
Okay, good. Very pleased to have with us in our final slot a presentation from and questions and answers with Canoo. Canoo is an exciting mobility startup with an experienced team, including veterans from BMW, really the core of the i3, i8 team, Tesla, Ford, SpaceX. Today, we're pleased to be joined by Paul Charles-Sunis, in charge of finance. Paul was a key player in Deutsche Bank's auto investment banking area, and Alex Marcinowski, in charge of corporate strategy, who also comes from a banking background at Duff & Phelps. They're going to start with about a 10-minute slide presentation. As usual, you can send me Q&A to the email address on the side or on Bloomberg chat at bjohnson487. So with that, I want to turn it over to the Canoo team.
Thank you, Brian, for the invitation to participate today, and thank you to Barclays for hosting this conference. It's really a pleasure to be here. So what you see here on the screen is an image of our skateboard platform, and this is a piece of technology that we're just really excited about. It's the only chassis or skateboard out there that can drive independently without having a cabin attached to it. That also has been crash tested. So we're very mature in terms of where we are in the program. And we're going to dive into this a little bit more as we go through the company overview. So a little bit about who we are. We're founded back in 2017. We're located in Los Angeles, California, where we think is the heart of the EV movement here on the West Coast. And really what we wanted to do is find a way to disrupt the value chain of producing, designing, engineering, and manufacturing electric vehicles. We're taking a very unique approach where we're applying an agile technology in terms of how we design and engineer vehicles. And this enables us to bring products to market faster and develop new products that consumers want. This has been proven already with the work that we've done to date. In record time, we've developed that skateboard that you saw on the cover slide there. And we also have developed our first vehicle using this methodology. And it's something that we're very proud of. Here is a couple of images in terms of vehicle types and opportunities. The way that we like to think of ourselves as a company is that we serve B to all. There are many opportunities for our skateboard platform, and really it's at the heart of all of the company and what we're doing today. So as an illustration, these images that you see here are all underpinned by this one single chassis. This enables us to use that agile method in terms of developing and engineering new vehicles, being able to test them and bring them to market. We believe by leveraging this single skateboard, we can bring a new vehicle to market within 18 to 24 months, and we can do it at a much lower cost versus the competitor just by leveraging this single skateboard chassis. What you see here are images of our beta vehicles, and this is something that we're very proud of to be able to have, and it illustrates the maturity of our program where it is today, especially considering the short time period that the company has been here. These are all beta vehicles, which means they're prototypes that are about 85% ready for full serial production. We achieved our beta program within 19 months, which we believe is a record time, and we have 13 driving prototypes on the road today and 32 overall properties. One of the most critical things here is the crash testing. This is something that we've undertaken and completed over 50 crash tests to date. And as we sit here today, we have completed our beta program, and now we're moving into the gamma phase. A little bit about what we achieved over the last 2 years. So our beta program, as mentioned, 19 months to be able to design and engineer a prototype vehicle. This is a process that typically takes 3 to 5 years. So again, highlighting the technology DNA that's within our company. It took us $250 million to achieve beta, and this is typically a program that is measured in billions of dollars. To date, we have raised over $480 million prior to the SPAC process. We develop all of our technology in-house, and this is critical so that we own those licenses and we're not dependent on our suppliers. But it's also critical because we wanted to make sure that we were doing something very different, very unique and efficient. When the company was started in 2017, we looked at different types of technology that was out there. None of it met the needs, and we saw a very big opportunity that a lot of the other players were missing in terms of the way that their skateboards were designed. So this was a great opportunity for us to take advantage of. We're also generating some revenue today through contract engineering. And it's important for us to de-risk our overall strategy because it does take a number of years to be able to bring a new vehicle from a sheet of paper to actual commercialization. And then market validation. We've been working with some world-class partners in terms of partnerships and also helping us with the manufacturing. But it really helped validate our technology and what we're doing today in terms of what our products coming to market and the way that we're viewing the EV landscape.
This is a really exciting slide. We call this our B2all strategy. And really the name of the game here is a skateboard. It underpins and enables all these vehicle launches. And like Paul said, in less time and much more efficiently than our competitors can do it. But what you see here is that the skateboard in the engineering technology section can become a business line in and of itself. So we are exploring selectively opportunities with third parties to either license, sell, or modify our platform and technology for them. And I think this is a critical area of our business, especially in the early stages where we're partnering with Hyundai today. Now looking at the kind of vehicle offerings, our core business on the B2B and the B2C side, you can see we're targeting 3 distinct markets where they have a large and growing TAM, which is important for us. The second is that we've identified that we can compete in these segments from a vehicle launch and a landscape standpoint. And then the third is the market dynamics, right? From a customer acquisition and a margin standpoint, are these attractive markets? And you can see that's how we've triangulated these B2B and B2C markets for our vehicle launches. And I don't want to belabor these individual buckets, but I do want to highlight 2 key updates from the business side. And that's the first of which is on the delivery vehicle. So since the SPAC announcement, I think Paul and I have both been pretty amazed by the third-party interest and the engineering progress we've been making on this vehicle. And Paul will actually tease some more information about that on the next slide. But really, it's becoming one of our core products, and we've received fantastic feedback from a differentiation standpoint. And then the second is the B2B interest we've been receiving on our lifestyle or pod vehicle. So we've received numerous inbounds from third parties, autonomous companies, corporate fleets to leverage this vehicle for B2B use cases, which I think is really exciting for us. So post this announcement, I think we've seen an uptick in activity on both of our business lines. And if anything, our TAM is bigger than it was, 2 to 3 months ago.
And then just wanted to touch on a few recent developments since we announced our transaction. We have some new leadership team members, most notably Tony Achillia was named executive chairman. It's great to have Tony on board with his public market experience as we make this transition to a public company, especially considering his track record of success in delivering shareholder returns through commercializing different types of technology, which is critical for us as we continue to mature as an operation. We have completed our beta program under budget and on time with very successful results. Again, this is critical in terms of a differentiation where we are in the maturity of our program, getting through a significant portion of the crash testing. As Alex mentioned earlier, we're excited to announce that we will be delivering a vehicle prototype with more details to come in the coming weeks on a potential public reveal event. And then lastly, since the announcement, our wait list for our first product has increased by over 5,000 customers since the transaction was announced. So a lot of great positive momentum as we head into the de-SPACing process. And with that, Brian, thank you. I would turn it over to you for any Q&A.
Thank you. I really want to talk about 3 buckets of things: the vehicle strategy, the skateboard strategy, and just culture, nimbleness, and competitive moats. Let's start with the vehicle strategy. Looking first at the lifestyle vehicle, the i3, which Uli, of course, was a key player in, seemed to be a great city car. It kind of took the idea of different form factor that EVs can um, EVs can support to maximize the interior space. But it seemed like a lot of potential buyers I talked to, including my wife, seemed to think the styling was a bit too out there, and the lifestyle vehicle is frankly even more out there. How do you get comfortable that there is a market for it?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think how we look at it, and the i3 is a fantastic vehicle, but it did push the boundaries in terms of vehicle design. I think the market in 2020 has matured a lot, and you're seeing consumers more willing to accept different designs. And I think it's really validated what we've seen on our wait list and the media reception, both on the auto side, where we were a little bit nervous, and it's been very, very positive, and then on the media and then the consumer side, that's reflected on our wait list numbers today. The second key difference, I think, though, is the use cases for our lifestyle vehicle. If you look at the demographics that it can fit from, a young family or an urban millennial, but also on the B2b side, like I alluded to earlier, I think it has a much broader applicability than the i3, although the i3 was a fantastic vehicle.
And also on the personal ownership side, how are you going to make the economics of the subscription model work? And in particular, Legacy Auto obsesses over residual values in the lease portfolio. And here you are offering a very flexible subscription model where the car can come back after just a few months.
Yeah, so, and this is one thing that I think we are more focused on than probably anything else when it comes to the subscription or flexible lease model, is how do we structure an offering that is both friendly to a consumer and provides the value that we want when it comes to optionality and bundling, but also on the business side, Brian, like you alluded to, that we're making sure that we have security around our cash flow and our residuals. And what we're doing there is, again, the structuring of the model. It's really, how do we make this so it's not just a subscription, but it's also like a flexible lease. So encouraging longer customer tenure, which is important for us. So minimum terms of 3-6 months for our offering, as well as incentivizing down payments. But if you look at how we're currently structured and thinking about it, it's really, how do we modify the current lease that consumers are going to today, and they are staying in the vehicles for 3+ years, but give consumers that flexibility and that optionality, so they're not locked in for a period of time. And we've been really encouraged by the results that we've seen with some of our competitors that have started to figure out their subscription models more and more. And I think that's where we are today, is refining the model, refining the analysis, and making sure that we're encouraging customers to stay in for a very long time, and making sure that we're pricing this adequately so it's a good consumer offering, but on the business side, we have solid cash flows going forward.
So let's turn to the B2b delivery vehicle variant. You talked a lot about interest, but when can you announce pilot buyers?
Yeah, so that will be post our public reveal event. So I would say rough timing would be Q1 of 2021, but our public reveal event is slated for December of this year.
Okay, about when the LA Auto Show used to be, roughly.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID. The B2B delivery vehicle, we've heard from Rivian earlier today. We heard from Ford earlier today with its e-transit plans. How do you compete in that segment with, on the one hand, a well-funded startup with a contract with the biggest, one of the biggest last mile delivery players in the world. On the other hand, Ford with its kind of deep fleet B2B sales bench behind it.
Very fair question. It really all comes down to the skateboard again. So, if you look at the competitive landscape, what we're targeting is a class 1 vehicle that has cargo volume that gets into the class 2 range. The Rivians, the Arrivals of the world are building great DVs, but targeted at the class 3, class 2 segment. So it's a fundamentally differentiated segment. And why that's important for us is that because our skateboard has been developed for consumer vehicle as well, we pass crash tests with our vehicle. And class 1 are the only class of delivery vehicles that need to pass crash testing. That's why if you look at the market, we're really the only ones today that are going after a class 1 electric vehicle. And you're seeing the huge growth with Amazon, Walmart, the last mile delivery vehicles, that they need these solutions, but it's very hard to enable a class 1 offering unless you pass crash tests on your core programs. And I think that's where we're very differentiated. And then what that enables, Brian, going forward is the TCO, right? Every single fleet operator, that's what they care about, is delivering low TCO. And because our skateboard has been developed very well, and because we leverage the cost over multiple programs, that's how we deliver that very, very low TCO on a small footprint, and then have that large interior cargo space. And that's really what we've been seeing has gotten folks and fleet customers excited about our product.
And that's why we have this B2all strategy. It's leveraging one single skateboard that has gone through the most rigorous testing, a traditional automotive validation process. It's important that you do not take any shortcuts in that development part of it. And we're certainly not doing that, but it enables us to go after markets that we think some of our competitors may not be able to go for right now.
And could you just maybe clarify for those who aren't deep into last mile delivery, the difference, between class 1 and class 2, 3, and maybe kind of what type of vehicles are currently being sold into fleets with ICE that sort of would fit those categories?
Yeah, so I think the best example of the class 1, for those who are familiar with it, is the Nissan Nexus EV. These are the ones that you see really as city mobile freighters. Your plumber, your electrician might use a class 1 vehicle. And then you're also seeing the small Ford Sprinter van is somewhat of a class 1 as well. So that's really the segment that you're targeting. And that's really the segment that's growing a lot, especially in Europe and Asia Pacific, which are really 2 of our key markets. The class 3 vehicle, to the best, is the UPS truck that you see today. That's right. Your typical class 3, 4, the brown box.
Okay, so you're coming in a size smaller exterior, but volume that's smaller than a class 3, class 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Interior volume, but a class 1
but
footprint.
we get that class 2 volume, which is really what the Amazons, the Walmarts need when they're delivering these last mile packages in urban centers.
And I think it's important to flag that that size vehicle is perfect for the European market.
Yep.
As you think about these older cities that have very small roadways, to have something that is smaller but also has a lot of interior space, I think is going to be very important.
And before we get to skateboard, can you talk a little bit about manufacturing both of the skateboard and of the vehicles? Where is that going to be? How do investors get comfort with your contract manufacturing? And do you have different relationships for skateboard manufacturing versus end vehicle manufacturing?
So we have not announced our contract manufacturing partner to date. I can say that we have been working with them since the company was founded. And this was a critical step for us because we wanted to make sure whatever we designed and engineer would be able to be built at scale. I think a lot of folks take how complicated manufacturing a vehicle is versus other technology. It's not like a cell phone. It's not like a television. A vehicle needs to start every time. It needs to operate 120 degrees, minus 20 degrees. So you have to make sure this is built well. We are targeting a facility here in the United States, but the reason I can't disclose where it is specifically because we're having conversations with the states as it relates to incentives. So unfortunately, you can't provide additional detail there. But we are going to be manufacturing both the cabin and the skateboard at the same facility. And it's really an interesting and we think unique approach of the way that we're doing this, where we have much greater throughput because we can run a cabin line and a skateboard line both at the same time and then marry them to have the final product. And this allows us to, if we get more orders or engineering services for our skateboard, we can build more skateboards than we need to on that one line, but then also build enough for us and our needs.
And can you talk a little bit about, the specs in terms of range? Two numbers that I'm getting email questions on, kind of, range in miles or kilometers per kilowatt hour. Ford and some others have some out there, so Tesla does for their vehicles. And then how, the all-in cost drives into TCO for a fleet operator.
Yeah, so miles per kilowatt hour, and again, this depends on size and shape of the top hat that you're going to put on the delivery vehicle. But right now we're targeting roughly 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, and we're roughly on track for that. So top of the range in terms of vehicle efficiency. But going back to the TCO, which is really the most important thing, for us, this is informed by a few key metrics. Number one is our bill of materials. Again, having cost in our minds from day one has been really, really important, especially when you're talking about making a B2B delivery vehicle. So, when we were manufacturing the skateboard, this was something that was in our minds in the forefront, knowing that we needed to deliver a platform that was A, durable because it was going through for a subscription model, but B, was cost effective. And those two key characteristics also play well into the B2B DV market. The other critical thing for us, and Paul alluded to this earlier, is that we can bring the cost down on the skateboard because it's running over multiple vehicle programs. So we get that BOM pickup that other OEMs don't have on their vehicle lines. And even if it's 5, if it's 10%, these dollars really add up, especially when you're talking about margins of 15 to 20%. I think that's why our strategy is a little bit different than some of the other OEMs that are targeting this segment. Paul, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but.
Well, let's move on to the skateboard. That's very helpful in terms of miles per kilowatt hour. What about cost per kilowatt hour for the battery pack and the skateboard? What are your goals for that? And, given you're not, or at least you're not making your own cells, you're not doing the kind of extensive investment in manufacturing cells that GM and Tesla are through their partnerships. What gives you, confidence in having competitive cost per kilowatt hour?
So we are working with the top suppliers. This is one of the few components that we are outsourcing or purchasing and not developing in-house are the cells. As we look at the future curve, we have seen prices continuously come down on the battery packs. But for us, really, it was about what we're doing internally in terms of our engineering and the way that we're building an efficient package. For us, we're not focused on 0 to 60 times. It's more important for us to be able to get that last eighth of a mile out of a very small battery pack. Again, we got to remember the challenge that you have with EV is that you have a battery pack that's $8,000 or $10,000 versus a $10 plastic gas tank. And you need to be able to overcome that somehow, but you also have the range that you need to be able to provide that's sufficient for a consumer. So for us, it's more important about controlling the things that we can control and really focus on the engineering work to make sure that we have a very efficient package, motor, and battery management system.
And, can you talk about where the cells are going to be coming from, the power electronics, the motors? If you're not integrating into cells, are you doing your own power electronics or motors?
Everything will be built to print, but it'll be based off of the designs and engineering work that we've done. So the motors, we're using world-class global tier 1 suppliers as our partners to develop this technology and build it for us, but it's all built and designed to Canoo's specifications. Okay.
And where, what would you say your secret sauce is in the skateboard? And you certainly have, not just Tesla, but Volkswagen and GM have talked about skateboard strategies, and they're throwing billions of dollars at EV batteries and drivetrains. And you're coming in with your funding, regional funding and from the SPAC, but, what's your secret sauce?
It's really about the functional integration. We made sure that every component within our skateboard can serve multiple purposes. And a few examples that I could give is like with our cold plates that are used to cool the battery systems. Not only do they cool the cells, but they're also there as part of the crash element structure. And it's important that we do this functional integration and components serve multiple purposes because, again, we're trying to reduce overall cost of the vehicle through fewer components. We want to reduce weight because weight, the lower the weight we get, the better our range is. So there's a lot of win-win opportunities for us in terms of what we're doing, and I think it's incredibly unique. We do have the flattest skateboard, and as I mentioned at the very beginning, it's the only skateboard that can be operated without a cabin that has been crash tested. And it's important that the skateboard is very flat because it gives designers and engineers more flexibility to design different types of cabins and top hats. I would say our first vehicle is the most difficult version of this to create because it's the largest volume space that you could put on such a platform today.
I would say the only other thing to add is, and maybe this is not differentiation, but the maturity of our program, even compared to some of the OEMs, based on us getting through Crash, going into Gamma with a fantastic beta program. I think we feel very confident about being, if not the first to market, one of the first to markets, but also most of the execution risk is behind us.
And let's talk a little bit about Hyundai. Will you be the exclusive supplier of skateboards to Hyundai? And in particular, they're currently selling EVs very well in Europe. I think at least a couple of months ago, they were tied for number 2 behind Volkswagen and ahead of a certain $500 billion company in Europe. Will the Ioniq transition over to a Canoo platform to build on that market position?
Hyundai has been really a phenomenal partner for us at Canoo. And it was really great for them to be here on site with us and help validate our technology and acknowledge that we have a very unique and special platform. We have not been awarded any contracts for specific vehicle lines with Hyundai. Where we are today with them is in the concept engineering phase, meaning that they saw our technology and they said, this is a really clever way of building a powertrain system in a skateboard. And then we work with them to look at how we could potentially partner using that skateboard platform. So right now, it's still in the concept engineering phase, but we continue to be in discussion for future projects and opportunities with them.
Okay, great. And are there other potential skateboard buyers? What does the pipeline for the skateboard look like?
Yes, no, this is something that's really blown up since we announced our transaction, where we've received a lot of inbounds. And this goes to the B2all strategy that we mentioned earlier. We can use it with autonomous driving companies. You can use it for last mile delivery, consumer products, even for other B2B opportunities such as government or B2G and governments that go to then consumer for public transportation as an example. We think this single platform opens up a tremendous market opportunity for us, not only here in the United States, but globally as well.
And are there discussions underway? Are there companies in the pipeline?
Yes, we do have a number of companies in our pipeline. This is something that I would say we've been working on for at least the last 12 months since we've had hardware on site. And many of these discussions are in the advanced phases. Some are entering into commercial negotiations as we speak. And we continue to get inbound interest from new partners all over the world.
Okay, let's go to a high level and just talk about what's the culture and kind of your ability to be nimble at Canoo. And, as we kind of start at the beginning, you have Tesla 15 years down the EV learning curve, large OEMs throwing billions of dollars from a couple of them today. What gives you confidence that you can carve out a winning position? And, what would you say is unique about the culture at Canoo that could get you there?
So I think we have a completely different business strategy than a lot of these companies. Again, using that agile technology approach for engineering and designing vehicle, I think saves us a lot of time and capital, and allows us to pivot quickly into new market opportunities. When you look at the other traditional automotive OEMs, it's phenomenal that they're entering into the EV space, which I think is absolutely critical. But one of their biggest challenges is going to be the legacy infrastructure and the bureaucracy that they have internally. These are companies that have been around for 100 years. They have very firm systems in place. But for us as a new team, we're able to move much quicker and be able to make decisions faster and be able to get the products out to market. So we do have a very large competitive advantage from the size of the company and being newer. And we're not constrained by 100 years of heritage like some of these other big OEMs. But Tesla, of course, I can't speak highly enough of them, setting the marketplace for electric vehicles. And this is an incredibly exciting space to be in today. As it relates to the culture of the team, I really think this is part of the success that we've had to date. We've worked together for many years at previous companies, and a lot of the team members have spent their entire careers focused on electric powertrains. So they never touched a single gasoline or diesel engine. but dedicated their careers to EV. And they've worked on these projects. And over the years, of course, there's a lot of learnings for them. Being able to bring that knowledge and understanding is what enabled us to move so quickly.
And, in particular, what functions and activities at Canoo benefit from kind of a pure software startup culture, the extreme, rapid iteration, agile development, or more sardonically ship it and fix it? And what needs the more disciplined approach of a traditional OEM, BMW or, Ford would talk about quality being job number one, which, is epitomized by Toyota, requires a certain kind of go slow, get it right, take another baby step approach.
Yep. So when you look at the entire value chain from blank sheet of paper doing the design to delivering the vehicle to the consumer, on the front side of that, that's where we can save a lot of the time and capital by using technology and applying these disciplines into the automotive business. On the industrialization side of it, it is a little bit more fixed because you do want to make sure that you validate your products, the hardware. You can only test a motor for 1 million miles so quickly. So that does take time. You cannot take any shortcuts as it comes to testing, validation, and the crash test portion of it, with a greater emphasis on the crash side of it, because that's absolutely critical. And that's how you make sure that you put out a quality product. So on the front end, very much agile technology approach. On the back end of it, when you get into commercialization, that's when it's more of a traditional approach.
And just to close out, you've dropped a few dates throughout, but just maybe to summarize, what are the key milestones over the next several months, several quarters, investors ought to be looking for from the Canoo management team?
So the first and upcoming will be the reveal of our last mile delivery vehicle. And then what's going to happen over the
which is December, correct?
Yep,
yeah,
that's December. Yep, that's December. And then, of course, as we're maturing into a company, we're building out the board members. We will be having some additional potential contracts with partners and partnerships. And then, of course, something that we're doing right now internally is kicking off our Gamma program, which is a critical step to getting to full-scale production. So we'll continue to add on additional team members. We're going to continue to review our strategy and the products that we're going to be offering based on the demand and interest that we're receiving here today.
And just on the SPAC process, when do you expect the merger vote and de-SPACing?
Yeah, so we're working with the SEC, working through the SEC process as quickly as we can. We're down to a few final items that we need to get completed. We're really proud of the progress that we've made to date, and we expect to stay on schedule for our closing.
Okay, thank you very much. Look forward to being able to get on a plane again and visit you down in sunny Southern California. And also look forward to that reveal in early December. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Alex. And thanks everyone who's tuned in to various all or part of our 11th Annual Global Automotive Conference. Look forward to lots of client dialogues in the days ahead. And for those of us in the US, great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Brian. Much appreciated.